Before we get today's review started, I just want to do a little shout out to a follower who's been subscribed to me for a very long time, and even told me I was one of the inspirations for why he started doing reviews himself. As you can see on screen, he does reviews over at the Origin Countdown, a fairly new channel, but you can definitely tell there's quality in both his thumbnails and the reviews themselves. Now, let's get back to the review as we dive into a franchise that has been PlayStation dominant ever since its inception on the PSP back in 2009, bringing the popular music sensation called Vocaloid to the gaming world. The Project Diva series spans several PSP, PS Vita, PS3, and even a PS4 game. But it was high due time for Project Diva to once again return to the handheld world. So, here is my review of Hatsune Miku Project Diva Megamix for the Nintendo Switch. When it comes to gameplay, Megamix is a rhythm game just like the other games of the franchise. As you go through each track, you'll be watching a music video while doing timed button inputs as the singer sings their song. As you go into the game for the first time, it's important to note the comparison between this game and Future Tone for the PS4. Taking a quick look at the two menus, you'll notice that all of the different menu items are pretty much the same. The only noticeable difference being the fact that the DLC option PlayStation Store from Future Tone has been replaced with a Nintendo Switch eShop option on the Switch. And the similarities don't stop there, from the UI when you're actually playing songs to the fact that you can go into options and change the button icons to the PlayStation face buttons. Differences start showing up when we get to the game's roster of music. Megamix has 101 songs in its base package, at least 10 of which are currently exclusive to Megamix. The rest of the game's tracks have been in the franchise before, some of which harken all the way back to the origin of the franchise back on the PSP in 2009. I still remember the first time I booted up Project Diva 1 for the PSP after importing it. And I always feel nostalgic for that moment when I go into these later games and find The World Is Mine with the same music video as back then. Now, outside of the song roster, this game's progression style is very different from the last handheld Project Diva game, which was Project Diva X. That game had a story campaign, a set of missions and tasks, and really a lot of unlockable features that both Future Tone and Megamix do not have. They're a little simpler as you don't have to do anything to unlock the songs. You just go into rhythm mode, have all 100 available to you, and just pick and choose what you want to play. Now when you get into the actual rhythm game, a lot of things are very similar even if you never played Future Tone. The song plays out while a music video is in the background, and while it's going, notes in the form of button symbols will fly across the screen, requiring button inputs to play along with the song. This has been how the franchise worked for a very long time. What Future Tone and now Megamix brought to the table were multi-button hold maneuvers. Even if you go back to Project Diva X, you never really had to hold down multiple buttons at once or do a bunch of inputs while holding them down. This game is a different story. You have a lot of multi-button presses where you have to hold down not only one, but 2, 3, and even 4 buttons at the same time. Megamix also has some uniqueness in mix mode where you can detach the Joy-Cons and use motion and button controls to be able to do the rhythm game in a different way. But let's get back to those multi-button presses and holds, as they're what makes the game so complicated. Even on the normal difficulty, you do a lot of these 4-button holds, and they make this game a lot more difficult and technical than the previous handheld Project Diva games. Doing the holds is one thing, but when you do these holds, you're encouraged to keep those buttons held down to get the max bonus. And in almost every situation you do it for all 4 buttons, the game wants you to immediately follow that up with a complicated combo with those buttons all over again. This led to a lot of criticism for Future Tone because it feels like the game is geared towards an arcade controller and not a console controller. And Megamix feels the same way. A lot of these maneuvers are really flashy and doable, but they just feel too overwhelming when you're using a regular controller. Now as we get past this, it is still possible to finish all songs in the game, and when you do so, you get VP credits that can be used to buy costumes. This is where all of the unlockable content is. There are dozens upon dozens of different costumes you can buy for all of the different characters, and the smart thing this game does is that every music video has a recommended or proper costume for that character to fit the aesthetic of the video. So when you're about to play a new song, it pays to go into customization for just a moment so you can see what the proper costume is and whether or not you want to pay the VP to buy it. And you don't have to worry about grinding for money either. I cleared the first couple of songs with the default costumes and bought the recommended for pretty much everything else. There were some exceptions, like when the game called for a swimsuit costume that has a substantially larger price than the others, but overall I never really had to stop and grind to buy proper costumes. And that, my friends, brings us to content and length, which is something we really need to talk about. The game has 101 songs, so going across each song and spending a good bit of time in customization should give you at least 12 to 15 hours of content. This isn't bad for the asking price of $40, but the problem is Future Tone. It might have been a better idea if they'd just ported Future Tone over to the Switch because it has a lot more content available to it. Megamix costs $40 for its base package and gives you about 101 songs. Future Tone, however, is free to play, and its $40 regular bundle gives you 220 songs. That's over twice the amount of content for the same price, though another factor is present as we dive into presentation. Graphically, the game looks beautiful. It's a lot more polished than the PS Vita games, and if you noticed, Megamix went back to that original PS Vita and PSP style of graphics, offering a more anime type look versus Future Tone's really 3D realistic look. Now, some of the music videos do have some noticeable blur, especially in handheld mode, but overall the game looks very nice. And it plays nice too, as I have no complaints about performance. So, that being what it is, let's dive into battery life. On the original model, Megamix has a battery range of 3 hours and 27 minutes up to 4 hours and 18 minutes. On the Nintendo Switch Lite, it has a range of 4 hours and 9 minutes up to 5 hours and 40 minutes. And on the V2 or Redbox 2019 model, it has a range of 5 hours and 43 minutes up to 7 hours and 55 minutes. In conclusion, Megamix brings the Project Diva series to the Switch with songs both new and old, harkening all the way back to the series' origins. Now on the downside, you don't get nearly as many songs as you do in Future Tone, and the multi-button press complications of gameplay is pretty overwhelming. But if that doesn't bother you and you're a Vocaloid fan, it's definitely a fun rhythm game to play. Reviews to Go rates Hatsune Miku Project Diva Megamix for the Nintendo Switch an 8 out of 10. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. Thanks for watching and have a great day.